And welcome back once again to the PCS 2022 Spring Split. We are just a couple games away from rounding out day number 1, and right now we've got a winless Sem9 trying to etch that first one on the board against MetaFalcon team. But before we get into that, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors once again, CTBC Bank and Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS possible. Now, Clement, Sem9 go. They come into the split after having to wait a week. And, oh boy, it has looked a little rough, but they've made so many swap-arounds, they've made so many changes here, and now they've made another one. Lazar is back in the lineup.
Yeah, they do have their original mid-jungle duo, Lazar coming back into this one. And, you know, before we go into some of the details, I want to say that this is a pivotal game for Sem9. They've already played both of their games against Hurricane Gaming, and MFT is probably the one that is next on the list after also losing to Impunity. So if they don't win here, the road ahead looks much more bleak. And I have to say, historically, no team in the PCS has finished the split with 0 wins. Teams have gone 1-17, but never 0-18, and this is Sem9's best shot to get on the board.
You do not want to have that dubious honor. Not at all. So we'll see if they can get it. I agree with you. I think they've already lost a couple of games to Hurricane. This is a chance against one of the weaker squads to try and etch a W on the board, but I kind of feel like they may not be putting their best foot forward. I don't know if I agree with Lazar back in the lineup. We didn't get to see a ton from Kirino to really, I think, judge effectively. Yes, it's been a couple assassins. Maybe they didn't like what they saw, but this team needs answers.
The double swap is pretty interesting here, as well as usually when you see teams like trying to decide on duos, it's usually you change one thing at a time. But no, Sem9 is going for the all or nothing. They're going to go with both swaps in with the Arashi and the Lazir. And I feel like, to me, this is a very clear signal that they have targeted MetaFalcon team's weakness. 665 and Wen don't really operate as a duo all that much. We have seen them go back to their old strategy of Renekton and Diana, but the early mid games have been incredibly rough from the mid laner, and I think this is going to be one of those matchups where we could see a breakout win from Sem9, where they put all of their eggs into the same basket and just say, we're going to win the 2v2, come hell or high water, and snowball from there.
Absolutely. I think one thing to keep in mind, though, even when 665 and Wen haven't been looking as good, I think Whale has had a pretty solid time himself. I think Taco has shown us a lot of impressive performance on his side of the map. Again, a lot of unexpectedly strong top laners in this league. Now, Renhao as well, coming into the lineup for only his second game in the PCS, so he'll be swapping with Epic. We are going to be comparing the bottom lane, though, Whale and Clayx, and so far Whale has definitely looked the more impressive. But there is time for Clayx to try and turn the tables in his favor.
Yeah, a couple of things about both of these AD carries is that they will ban Zeri on the blue side. So if one of them just manages to pick up Zeri between week 4 and week 5 and didn't tell anyone about it, it could be a huge upset, because that is a champion that actually goes through their drafts.
What a swing that would be. Yeah, you know, I think it would certainly give a leg up to either of these carries for sure. We have seen it lose, though, in the hands of Impunity, but, you know, maybe that was just a one-off. Maybe it's a blip on the radar. Even Zeri isn't limitless damage. It might be a must ban, but still. Yeah, I'm curious to see how the pick ban goes, to be honest. Really have been impressed, generally speaking, with Whale. I think of all the players on the squad, I kind of was expecting a little bit more from 665. I didn't know what to expect from Taco. I think Whale's definitely been consistently good in their wins on the MetaFalcon team side, but we are into picks and bans.
Very solid damage dealer coming from him, and if you look at the red side ban picks, this is exactly what I was talking about. There is no Zeri. Usually that ban is always Zeri. Like, it doesn't even matter what it is. You want to get the bans that you are certain that you want to get rid of on the first ban, because that gives you room to kind of maneuver in the second and third bans based on what the opponent is doing. So if you don't see the Zeri off first, there's a high likelihood that it actually just goes through the draft. So, Clayx, I'm looking at you, Clayx. Come on, let's go. Pick it up, man.
The Jinx is banned too, but no Zeri. Tryndamere, that's like, yeah, okay. So they switched things up a little bit to take away from Taco. Also, that Akali was kind of a double takeaway against both Wen and Taco, who've shown it. MetaFalcon team, is this going to be the Zeri Open?
Arashi's pretty much Lee Sin godlike one trick. Oh, they still got the Zeri in the
no,
end.
they lose. Oh, at the last minute. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Arashi should definitely pick up the lead. It makes a lot of sense for him right now, but they're going to lock in the Hecarim instead. All right. This has been more of a Caspiel champion, but we'll see as Arashi gets to take the pony for a spin.
Very interesting that they're going for Hecarim because he's not really known for a strong 2v2, and they're not playing with Xin Zhao here. So it does give... look, if I'm 665, even though I might be the main carry of the team, I'm perfectly willing to just play 665, play Xin Zhao, sorry, and snowball through my bottom lane. I feel like that's a perfectly good strategy against Sem9. You don't always have to, excel and have a massive lead in one position. You can have many leads across the board, and that will still do the trick. So if I'm 665 here, I just kind of take this in and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not left open all the time, so he's had a chance to play it once in the split, but he wants to do damage here. That's going to be the lock-in of the Ruined King. Holy moly, Viego comes out when Xin is open. Okay, didn't expect that one.
Yeah, it feels a little bit unnecessary in my perspective. Viego is a very feast or famine champion. We have seen in the Beyond Gaming games a lot of times, if he doesn't get snowballing or he doesn't find an opening in teamfight settings, he just doesn't do anything. Like, he can get stuck on tanks quite easily. If the enemy teams have things like Renata that can reset kills, which is another counter that exists with the bailout, then you don't get to get your Sovereign's Domain down. So it's definitely a riskier pick, but it's an MFT pick.
Yeah, why not? They're going to bet big on that one. So Renhao will lock in the Leona, rounding out the bottom lane of the Aphelios Leona for Whale Renhao. Sem9, they of course went for the Xayah. Clayx kind of has a surprisingly low number of Aphelios games. I would say he's winless on it, but 0-12 for Sem9, so really kind of goes without saying. MFT entered band phase 2 here. Let's see what they focus on with the support pool still more or less fully available. They're going to try and cut that down a little bit, so getting rid of the Lovers duo makes a lot of sense.
This game is quickly heading into Taco has to really pull a lot of weight right here. Sem9 are looking at an incredibly powerful teamfight composition. They have great engage with the guided missile combo of Shockwave plus Onslaught of Shadows. Their backline is really hard to catch, easy to follow up with. And if they just, tag out a couple more engaged champions, I think their composition is completely fine. It's very easy to execute. It's just run at your opponent as a 5v5. And the other hand, for MFT, it's a different scenario. I think MFT are looking at some sort of a tempo composition that we have right here. But they are going up against pretty stiff competition. So I think the mid lane has to be the key counter pick right here. They have to get something that can move against Lazar, Orianna, and start skirmishes in the jungle by itself.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Now, for Sem9, as there have been at least one support ban thrown their way, I think the Nautilus, you were talking about adding an extra engaged champion, makes perfect sense here for Philly to pick up. There are other options if he wants, but I think that's probably the most reliable one. Hasn't had a chance to play it a whole lot here. Ahri ban, Gwen ban, so definitely a little bit of focus on Gwen and Taco. And that is a champion that can mix it up just about anywhere you choose. We've seen that earlier today as they add in the Galio.
This is an interesting champion because if you are going to go Predator, it actually doesn't win against the lane versus Orianna. You do get the early game where you can roam, but later on, or you can actually do a number on Galio. That damage really starts to stack with the Clockwork Wind-Up. And for Sem9 here, Karma, that's fine pick. It's top lane Karma.
I mean, would that be the Enchanter?
They're trying to think of something that can just be blind picked up.
Blind Gnar. Yeah, go ahead, do it. We've seen it do okay, I guess. Now, the MFT Galio pick does kind of remind me of one of the first things we saw out of this team, which was the massive Wombo combo comp that they tried to pull off, and I believe they actually executed a kill or a win with it. It looked pretty good because it was just a hard to execute comp that this team had a lot of inbuilt synergy to work with. And I'm thinking it might have been against Frank Esports. I need to go back and look. And they are going to find a Silas to finish up. So that I think that's a Taco Galio.
We did have, I believe, when played one game of Silas with really good stats. Oh no, I think that
No,
was
it's
no,
Stop
no,
Silas.
that was Pretender. Sorry,
No, it's okay.
I got the wrong guy.
I mean,
Yeah.
still, like, this is an interesting choice, but MFT have shown a few things like this in the past.
Yeah, it's very good with things like Oriana, which is you can just steal the ball and ult on yourself. So that's usually a prime target for the ultimate. Also,
Right.
with Gnar, you get the advantage where you don't have to be a Mega Gnar to kind of use the Gnar combo. So there are a number of ultimate engages right there that could be used from the enemy team. And I think the key thing here is, of course, you have a lot of mobility on this champion. There's a small dash on the W, and then you get the two swings on the E. So
Right.
it's very clear that this is a full-on engaged composition coming in from MFT, the same comp that you always see from them. But this time around, I feel like it's actually very difficult to execute against Semnite's composition.
We've said that before too, right? And sometimes they manage to find the way. The interesting thing for me is like Taco just plays whatever. This guy that's his 11th champion pick in 13 PCS games. It is actually
Crazy.
insane that he's played no champion more than twice, more than halfway through the split. What a champion ocean. Question is it going to be enough to win? I suppose we'll have to find out. MFT have given themselves a tough homework assignment, but we will see if they can beat Sem9 and improve their record. But for Sem9, they're hoping for a win. They've made it ease of execution, but there's always a few wrenches in the works playing up against MFT.
Just looking at the comps, I actually favor Sem9, but one point I'm super worried about is the top lane gank that's coming in. It's very difficult for Gnar to actually escape Silas, and you're talking about a double hard crowd control chain coming in from 665 as well. Especially when that Silas is also running phase rush. There's a lot of chase down potential. The chain slash can slow, and also you can interrupt Gnar's hop just mid-air. So if you just stick to him and the Gnar's trying to jump away, you can easily interrupt that. So I feel like for MFT, there's a very clear goal in the early game where to punish. They could also throw Galio in there for good measure. It's just so hard for Shiro Mine to actually survive this lane. However, if they get to teamfight, I do see them having a good chance. It's kind of difficult to kill Clay X if he uses his ultimate appropriately.
I feel like we've had the same stakes across the board a couple games today already with the tempo team versus the team fighting team. We'll have to see who comes out on top. And speaking of mobility, they're talking about Taco on that phase rush. Wen is, of course, going for the Predator Galio, so we'll be seeing a speedy Gargoyle this game.
Yeah, and just to point out, he's not going to go with the minion dematerializer here, so just relying on the raw push. And we have seen level 3 Galio roams be quite frequent whenever someone plays this composition. And what that means is if you're Sem9, you have to be very careful about pushing your lanes, especially for the bottom side.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Ooh, Taco looking to set up a level 1 bait. Oh my goodness. Nice. Pull in there to grab a little bit of extra damage. Just a little bit of fun mechanics. I do love these like oddball matchups and seeing what people can do when they have experience in them.
That's really nicely done by Taco. We actually got both Petricide bursts on the first trade. However, this trade has gone significantly worse for him.
Yeah, you fool me once, fool me twice. You know, Shiraminae's like, all right, you've had your fun. And now I'm going to just throw boomerangs at your face all day. But Taco is not content to just sit idly by. Very aggressive. And I guess we should have known this from him. As a 665 cheers him on from downtown.
Definitely one of those matchups that can turn into a lot of chain solo kills. You especially have to be careful about the level 6 versus level 5 because as a Silas, you can steal ultimates before the opponent even hits level 6. So you could just go all in, get the dash onto them, and then Mega Gnar them into a wall. Definitely something we could look for. 665 coming in.
Oh, Lazar forced to flash away. Nice setup there from 665 and Wen as the mid-jungle duo do combo up. And you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a repeat gank in the mid lane soon enough.
A really smart play coming in from them. Knows that Lazar has a lot of interest in shoving Wen in. So it just catches him off guard right there. A little bit unfortunate since they did have vision of the bottom side. So Lazar should have been able to play a little bit safer in that lane and not swing towards the top side. Instead, try to stay on the bottom side. But, of course, he still got his flashbone right there. Arashi, though, will get a bit of a level lead. Might be looking for some scuttle pressure.
Might just be able to do it. Gets that smite down and does beat 665. Sees him on the retreat.
that early.
These are two teams that definitely aren't afraid to throw out the troll emotes every once in a while, and I do respect it. Ever since that was something that became possible in professional level games, it just adds a little bit of personality, you know?
Yeah, it gives them so much more character. You can really tell what the player mentality is. There are those players that are almost too nice, and they're actually just acting in a sarcastic fashion. Like, we've seen LPL players when they come down, it's like, you guys are too good. Think of me when you go to MSI, and then they just slaughter you on stage. Then there's the players like Rest that always throw in the bewildered cat, the crying amumu's, especially against Beyond Game.
Mm-hmm. Or the more personalized ones where they'll flash some old teams just for old time's sake, and those are always fun to watch. But yeah, it does add an extra dimension to the gameplay. But back into it. We'll see 665 taking a trip up here. Yeah, that's a bit of a bait here, Shiro. You are in some trouble, my friend. Forced to flash away. Nicely done. Even in the Meganar, he's able to get out of harm's way. But again, that's crucially 2 flashes burned in 2 different lanes by jungle pressure. And I think MFT are pretty happy with how things are going here.
Yeah, they didn't burn any flashes on their own side. So what we're heading towards is Sem9 basically trying to survive the early game against a lot of this Viego pressure. And we do have Arashi should be hitting level 6 before 665. So that will give him a window most likely into the bot lane to get a charge down. We might be getting a 3-man party right here.
Here we go. And it's supportal combat in the mid lane as Philia and Renau find each other, but when cannot get Lazar on that Predator Galio movement. And Lazar playing pretty safe here in this mid lane. Very comfortable on the Orianna. Has been playing it mostly when he's been in the mid lane this split.
Yeah, and Lazar, he started with a lot of red side glass picks, going with a lot of assassins. I'm pretty happy to see that they're able to switch it up and not go full speed all the time. I feel like against teams that are closer to your caliber, playing the side that's a little bit slower usually yields a higher win rate, right? From like all the years of League of Legends that I've seen. If you're on the same caliber, going a little bit more scaly usually has a better win rate because it gives you more room for mistakes and errors to appear. Meantime,
Speaking of
Taco,
mistakes, level, not level
very
advantage,
close to level 6.
Shiro just, does get it. Oh dear, gotta run away, gotta respect. Taco, aggressive push. Building up a pretty healthy CS lead. Now 665 returns to mid lane, but Lazar already in safe positioning. So not going to be a kill just yet, not for lack of trying. This Viego would love to find those resets.
That was the trade window I was talking about, level 6 versus level 5. Unfortunately, the minion didn't die, but he's going to get another chance with the help of 665 here, and there's no way.
Oh, he grows the big paws. That's first blood. Taco at 665 combo up. Nicely played. That's going to be plates and all. I mean, this is a good game from 665. He's been getting everywhere he needs to.
I just love the combination of Viego and Sylas against the Nara. It's such a smart way to punish it. And it's one of those matchups that was very common in Season 8, Season 9. You just don't see it these days that much after kind of the nerfs of Sylas. Sylas is a champion that gets snowballed against super hard if you run in top lane. A lot of Sylas never grow old.
Yeah, the top lane is one thing, but like watching the Sylas kind of like makes me miss Jimmy in a little bit.
Oh.
Man, every time. I hope he's doing okay in NA.
It used to be that only one region was taking our talent, and that was the LPL. And now, like, everyone is in on it. It's like
never underestimate the LCS's insatiable thirst for talent. Or, apparently, Academy, turns out.
True. They're even taking all of our GMs and coaches. TSM's got Chowie.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, Chowie's getting around these days. He's kind of doing a around the world tour, I think, though.
Yeah, it's good on him. TSM actually having a good week, showing signs of life.
That is true.
We're definitely rooting for them.
Start. But yeah, it's around the world, day-to-days, things happening a little bit. But back here in the PCS at home, a lot of windows opened up for new talent. And I do think that is the silver lining to losing a lot of those familiar faces. And we are seeing a number of them on stage here today. Philia into the mid lane with Arashi, Wen safely backing up. And actually, they're going to try to fight fire with fire if it comes that way. But it looks like that's not going to be the answer. About to say Scuttle. A lot bigger than a Scuttle. Rift Herald being started up here by Sem9.
This is not a good start. There is no Narbar whatsoever, and if MFT follow, I think Sem9 have to back out. They're just going to have to give over positioning.
Ooh, Onslaught of Shadow stolen. And Shelly kind of leashed over here to 665, and the rest of Meta Falcon team, it does reset, but they have a much better take, and I think Sem9 were trying to find a pick there, trying to find an answer back. It just hasn't been anything, though.
Yeah, the travel path from Sem9 was a bit of a head scratcher right there. If you don't have like bot lane priority, usually you want to try and do it sneakily. This move though from Sem9 is a very good answer. They're more than likely to get all the gold back that they lost from, or are going to lose from the Herald from the bot side. But the most important thing is Shiromine has to stay alive, but he doesn't have a flasher.
He's so close to it too. And the Gnar bar's not where it needs to be. Right now, you have to respect the fact that Taco has Onslaught. You have to know 665's going to dive you. He's done it twice already. Oh, Shiro. Flash almost up. And the game's up. Let's see if he's going to be able to save the day here. There's the Onslaught. Into the Gnar, into the wall. Actually, no. He cannot stay alive.
Oh, Taco's down.
Oh, just in time. He takes down Taco in the 1v1. Holy moly, that was actually a lot better than I thought.
Huge. Yeah, the Herald doesn't get to drop. The minion wave is completely taken out. I think MFT, unfortunately, were a little bit slow on the engage. What they should have done was use 665, go in, take the tower shots, and then he can blink out. So he can drop tower aggro after using the corpse of the Gnar there. But I felt like they were a little bit hesitant on pulling that trigger. And this actually ends up being a massive win for Sem9. They get the 2 plates in the bot side, plus the Drake.
Yeah, that's massive for sure right now. Shiromine with an excellent outplay, using his Gnar to knock Taco into the wall. Didn't really give them an opportunity to juggle the aggro. Yeah, he still goes down, but yeah, no push topside means advantage Sem9 here. They're still a little bit down in the gold game, but I mean, hey, when you're a 0-12 team, you take every little edge you can get. And right now, Shiro gave them one.
Yeah, that was a massive win right there. And you know, I think the problem with this game is so far we have not seen Wed ult at all. This is not what you want to see as a Predator.
Yeah, that's...
A Galio.
That's a bit sus, isn't it?
It's very sus, because it basically means that if you're at this point and you haven't used your Predator, you might as well have gone Aftershock, honestly. So, we'll see if
he has used it in the mid lane.
That's true, but
that's it though.
It was probably the most obvious Predator in the world. It's like, I'm charging up and I will walk towards you. It's, you know, it's not that effective.
Yeah, Meta Falcon team definitely stalling out a little bit after trying a little bit of play. 1,000 gold advantage doesn't mean much, especially when the Dragon had gone in favor of Sem9. It's the Hextech Drake. Meanwhile, checking into the bot side, Clayx and Philia have actually built up a decent CS lead up against Whale and Renhao. I didn't expect to be seeing that.
They did have some help in the 4v2 that went bot side. Also 320 gold going over to Clayx.
Yeah,
they're trying to bait this engage up, but they might be baiting just a little bit too hard here.
Yeah,
as we do see the pings from
obvious.
MFT. They know.
They know.
Yep.
Now they know
okay,
for sure.
They know.
Oh, the timing though! Look, they actually turnabout here with 665, and Philia's going down. Clayx does get to safety, so they don't get the full 2. Shiro, meanwhile, up to the top, going to be Meganard himself, and oh, we know he burns the flash and doesn't get to go Mega, as Taco gets some revenge.
Yeah, such an easy kill right there, and 665 still going for more, but Arashi.
Oh no, that's the Heartbreaker already expended, and Arashi's like, do I dare? I think he does. That's going to be the onslaught, but look at the heal already coming through. Clayx trying to find more kills on the Deadly Plumage, but doesn't get it. They don't get punished, however.
That was the most half-hearted attempt. Like, I think he was just charging, kind of like to show his teammates, like, I will protect you, I will fight for you. But there's no real chance that they were going to get the kill there, and he also had to worry about the Galio. So, just kind of showing up, but not able to accomplish much, and I think that was a great... we'll look at the top lane trade first. Taco is down about a quarter of health, but it doesn't even matter in this trade. This is how one-sided the matchup can get, especially when Shiromine doesn't have an ultimate to counter himself. And if we watch the trade here, Shiromine really needed a flash towards River rather than trying to get over Taco. Like, that flash distance was just not going to work for him right there. And congratulations to Taco for taking out a very clean solo kill.
Yeah, this, the more I think about it, the more the Sylas pick feels really genius, right? Because if you do get the outplays, like, you can make so much use of the Gnar ultimate just against one, and get the trades off. Not only that, he's been getting a lot of attention here from 665, so all combined, Shirmine is having a really rough game. And finally, the Galio ult's going to come in the nick of time. The hero's entrance as Arashi is sent running for the hills, but taunted up by the shield of Durand. That's going to be the shockwave from Lazar, forced to immediately flash away as Arashi tries to two-step, and he will. More like a four-step on those pony legs, but Taco's not done just yet. Finds Lazar on the second win, and Wen will even be able to pick him up after the fact as they juggle the aggro, and Shelly will even get one more charge off of this.
There's no one to defend. They are just going to go straight for the inhibitor tower right here. Wow, this is absolutely massive coming in from the side of MFT. They break the game wide open, and it all just came from Taco and his ability to play that many champions right there. Against the Gnar, that's such a smart pick. It gives an outlet for 665 to actually find a winning 2v2. But in the meantime, they do have to be very careful of Clay X.
Yeah, more like a winning 1v2 right here is the Featherstorm. Oh, flash follow. They will be able to at least clean up Renhao. You would think. Oh, no, I was about to say, if he gets away, it's all for naught. But at least the Xayah claims one. Still a massive swing for MFT right now on that topside play. Really changes the maths in this game.
Yeah, it just means that MFT, whoever goes up there, is going to get smashed down by Galio. That's almost a lane that they can't really farm anymore. So I do expect Sem9 to try to group up a lot more and try to play 5v5 win condition as they are.
We've got a little bit of skirmishes happening as everyone gets involved in the party.
But
a massive Gnar from Shiramine! Is that enough to turn the fight here as Taco has to go into stasis, has a Nautilus ult, not super useful at this stage, but he does burn the flash to get out of harm's way, and it ends up being still a one for none. Sem9 have to be feeling bad about how that went down, but they're going to try to take a consolation dragon. But MFT looking to turn once again. Looking for that smite. It does get taken away by Arashi, but they lose Philia for it. 665 is looking for an opening. He's not going to find that. So 2 dragons from Sem9, but cannot find a kill.
Such a feels bad for Sem9. They actually burned all 5 flashes from MFT within a span of 90 seconds, but nobody dies for it. It just feels kind of very awkward here. They should be able to defend the push somewhat. You have Lazar still here for the wave clear, so this should be fine. And they do take the Drake, so Sem9 are now the ones on the Drake stack towards Cloud Soul. However, the gold lead, I think, is a little bit out of hand at this point, and a lot of it is on the Sylas, which is probably the best snowballing champion in the game, like top 1 or top 2 for sure. So,
not to mention 665's Viego. I mean, we talk about feast or famine. Well, he's definitely having a feast right now. That feels so bad, and not just because they couldn't get the kills, but because Shiro had such a beautiful Gnarl. Like, that was 3-man. It was perfect.
It definitely was. It was. There were so many things that Sem9 actually did right in the last 2 minutes, but they just couldn't actually close on any of the deals. I thought Clay X with the Eclipse surprise back was so genius. You get extra movement speed from the Eclipse, so he walks into a 1v2 and burns both flashes. That was huge. He even gets a kill. And then you get the 3-man, but everyone still has their flashes because they didn't have to use it in any of the skirmishes. The skirmishes was just that one-sided in the top lane, where all of the flashes were still present. And they get to walk out of trouble completely. Sem9, though, they do have a lot of openings.
All right, they're going to try to get that shutdown, and they do. It lands into Arashi's pocket. Maybe not the optimal choice, but it is a quick pick in the Rift Herald.
It's absolutely massive for them to take down the jungler, gives them a free Herald, and I do expect them to try to just charge it down mid lane. If you're trying to play full-on 5v5, mid is most important.
MFT want to fight this.
Renhao
goes in. You see Whale on the Moonlight Vigil. Meanwhile, on the backside, Wen and Taco combo up to take down Arashi. I don't think Sem9 realized what they could do as Taco takes a stolen onslaught of shadows, pulled in by Philia, but I don't think they really want that one, and they're going to be able to get the double pop on the Shield of Durand as Wen again forces them back. Meta Falcon team just baiting and outsmarting.
Yeah, that we're doing a pinster where they were sacrificing the support on one side while Sylas had free access on the other side, and Sylas is extremely fed at this point. Taco able to solo out. I believe it was Lazar on the other side. We'll watch this again, just really smart on the way they engage this one. They can get a lot more done on the left, just taking out the jungler compared to Renhao, who still had who was able to survive that one. And Whale does a massive amount of damage. That was a 4-man Infernum right into the midst of the enemy team. They're able to force out everyone. Playax still has his ultimate, but he doesn't have the HP to survive this one, and does have to back out.
Yep, so what should have been a free herald there for Sem9 turns into the same for Meta Falcon team. And, yeah, well, at least they got Drake stacking, but things are looking a little bit rough for the Malaysian representatives right now as they try to find a way back into this game, try to find a way back into their split. And I feel like, I mean, Lazar didn't have Shockwave, and maybe that was a bit of a difference maker because they had spent it to try and take down 665. But I do think it was a good pick, right? So it feels like they kind of are forced into a handful of bad decisions, and they're just getting outplayed in a straight-up 5v5.
If they were within, I think, 2,000 gold, that play would have been fine. Mistake was they really needed to rush down that Herald. I don't think it was the wise choice to stall it out and try to hold the ramp. You just get the Herald and go. I think that would have been the most opportune play. They do have a lot of escapes, honestly, and maybe you have to give up Philia, but Clayax with Flash and ult is not likely to die in that situation. And same thing goes with Arashi with Onslaught. So I feel like it was just kind of a turn and burn was probably not exactly the correct move there.
Yeah, and we are seeing some of that indecisiveness still really not help this squad out as they are in the hunt for their first win.
They are going against history. Like, I don't know. Do you really want to make the history books at this point? I feel like it's kind of cool, but also kind of sad at the same time. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it feels a little bad, to be honest. I don't think you want to see that.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't mind being remembered, but yeah, what you're being remembered from is definitely is something to take into consideration. We did have two teams that were on 1 wins. Both Alpha Esports and Liap were on 1 win in the previous split. And even if Sem9 do drop down here, they still have 5 tries. But those 5 teams are against the upper half of the bracket, some of the most toughest games that they will ever have to play. So if they drop MFT here, I think the likelihood of 0-18 becomes far higher.
Yeah, like you said at the beginning, this was like a best chance scenario. So I think at this point, Sem9, they have to play back. They have to look for the reset. They still have a great team fight, right? It's just really hard to do when you're this far behind.
And there's no real chance for them to actually go aggressive anymore. I feel like they're kind of sitting ducks here. And their best opportunity is to kill MFT members, most likely Silas when he comes in. But you also have Taco with the Zanyas this early into the game, so it's just so difficult. I'm trying to think who they can actually pick off, but you have 2 Zanyas on the front line, and then 665 has reset. So, yeah, I just don't really see it. I feel like MFT have to make some major mistakes in team fights. Right now, they can just kind of A-click the ground and expect to win 5v5s.
Yeah, Rashi trying to grab his red buff back, nothing happening. Yeah, you know, it feels rough, and I think we can see that the gamble that MFT made really paid off here in the form of the Viego and also just these kind of oddball picks for Taco. Getting those 2 members fed, it creates a bit of a tough scenario because nobody on Sem9 can really out-duel in any situation. Even though Shiro has the Hullbreaker Gnar, he's a far cry from being a threat on the sidelines.
Can't even go there at this point. You can only go to lane where Taco isn't at. We already have gold objective bounties across the map right here, so if Sem9 can remain split, or even if they trade towers, it will still be in their advantage. That's one thing that losing teams can look forward in Season 12. At this point, I almost feel like it's worth it if you just lose singular kills and you're able to take a tower. Like the game's like 8,000 gold behind, where a lot of your members aren't even worth the full kill gold anymore. It's likely worth it to just attempt to overextend at times. Oh,
well, with the Shelly charge, they're going to try to make the play. Shockwave. However, they do get the knockback from Arashi, but it just isn't enough damage to save the day. And Shiro arrives too late to get a whole lot done here. And one by one, the dominoes fall, and everyone from MFT stay alive in the engage. A triple kill comes in for Taco, and now the Baron will as well.
Oh, such a rough fight to start right there. You had the Heartbreaker just moving away from the initial engage, buys a lot of time. PlayX dies with both summoners up, so it must have been the CC chain just killing him right off the bat, and Mega Gnar was also unused. So even though Sem9 were the ones that were pulling the trigger, they didn't actually have the gun fully loaded. They were just shooting blanks at the wall, and the MFT came in with the full firepower of their composition to bear.
Yeah, just a little unfortunate that Sem9 is just unfortunately so far behind. And MFT even get greedy with it. They push super hard with 3 members on the Baron and 2 on the sides. Let's see how that fight unfolded one more time. Shelly gets popped here. And yeah, like, they try to force it. 665 flashes, they still manage to get the onslaught on 2, but there's no follow-up damage. Whale is super safe, and he just unloads onto everybody, and the rest is history.
Couple big things right there. Lazar completely whiffs his ultimate. Good job here by 665 to dodge out of the initial engage. The TP from the back just meant PlayX had nowhere to go. I was looking at him and wondering where the summoners were. They wouldn't have made a difference. So he actually had the correct call, keeping both of them at hand. He was a dead man either way. It's just unfortunately, a huge part of their combo pieces not working out, and the onslaught of shadows going forward just meant that the rest of the team had to chase forward as well. So it's just the tower dropping down, giving them nowhere to run to. Meant that MFT had a perfect team fight. They had a complete surround. They had the enemy with down 3 ultimates right at the start of it, and also an 8,000 gold lead, so they could just walk through them.
Yeah, that last part, you know, pretty important, right? So MFT feeling pretty good in the driver's seat. Arashi, you know, okay, sure, you're in the brush, whatever. Renhao doesn't actually have to care here. Maybe he does now that Philly has found him, but he's just able to tank it up so much. We've seen Leonis today be able to do this on repeat when we have had these one-sided games. Sure, Mine's got a fully built Narbar, but it doesn't matter here as Taco is just too much of a threat. 2-level difference between these 2 top laners, and MFT can just sit back, kick back, 1-3-1 City.
Well, it definitely can at this point, and you know there are no Ocean Drakes on the side of Sem9. They're gonna have to run back for sustained issues. PlayX is the only one that can actually hold a wave and keep someone healthy. On the other side for Gnar, you can't do the same. Like, Taco can chunk him down quite easily. The bot lane is completely opening up, and I feel like unfortunately Sem9 actually lost kind of their window for engages at this point. All 3 waves are charging in with the supers, and even if they engage, they are bound to lose about 2 inhibitors on the other side. They still have to look for it, though. They don't really have an option. They have to go. Hey,
better to lose in a blaze of glory than to lose by just attrition. As Arashi runs in, suicide mission onto Whale, and now the turn is here as they get the stun off. PlayX is going to be deleted for just a second. He stays alive, but 665 tracks on top of him, and then the jaws snap shut. Philia runs, but he can't escape from the rest of the team. And Taco, where the heck was he even coming from inside the base there? That is going to be it with the wipe of the team. No one from MFT goes down, and the Nexus turrets will fall. And we've got quite a dominating victory from the University squad. Beta Falcon team take a win.
2 perfect back-to-back aces coming in from MFT. They don't lose a single member in the last 2 team fights, and unfortunately for Sem9, I feel like they had a lot of drafting ideas that they had present, but what really downed their game plan was a lot of these objective decisions were either way too hesitant or their engages just weren't decisive enough necessarily. They really needed the Shockwave into the Onslaught of Shadows combo to work out as a CC chain. We didn't really see that happen whatsoever, and when they're on the back foot, they did need to play a bit more counter-engage. They need to hold position and then counter-engage, but most of the time it was just MFT waiting for them to engage and then just swallowing their entire team composition up whole. So unfortunately for Sem9, they will remain winless for now.
Yeah, and those chances to try and grab a win on the board are starting to fade a little bit. If they have a chance to avoid the fate of going 0-18 at the end of the split, I'm sure they would take it. But for now, there's just too many questions, there's too many issues, and there's too much indecisiveness. We even talked about it in draft, how they had an easy-to-execute comp compared to MFT especially, and it was just night and day how the 2 teams approached this match. I do want to give credit to MFT, though. I think they threw this Malaysian squad on the back foot. They had a really interesting pick for Taco, who continues to showcase just an incredibly wide champion pool and finding answers that I think it's very hard to prepare for on the opposite side, no matter who you are. 665 had a really great game this time around as well. And even though it took a little while to get going, I think we finally got to see those Galio drops, and it was more of like a counter engage for them. And they just did what they needed to.
Honestly, there was just one point on the map that was winning the entire time, and they just kind of continually snowballed that one side. The team fights were actually fairly up in the air. MFT just out-executed in a lot of the senses. I feel like in terms of out-executed, should say that Sem9 put themselves in really bad positions, and it was just kind of like, oh, okay, we'll walk in and just kind of clean house from MFT's side. So in the future, I just want to see if Sem9, sorry, can focus in on those one glaring matchup that is going to happen on the map and try to tidy up a lot of their Herald approaches. I feel like that is what has really been downing them a lot of the times, just like approaching Herald with 0 Mega Narbar and top lane being completely pushed in. It's just kind of asking for trouble, if you're asking me. So if they do that, I still feel like they have the ideas and the concepts ready to take them to a team fight. They just can't kind of haphazardly go into early Drakes and Heralds like this.
Yeah, it almost feels like they know what they need to do to set up, but then once it gets to the moment, it's like everything goes a little bit out the window. The execution on some of those takes, I think it does show that there is a little bit of experience gap happening across the board for at least some of these players. Maybe the team cohesion is having some issues. I mean, clearly there are issues going on when you're a winless team at this point in the split. But for Sem9, I mean, it seems like they swap players a lot, and we don't really see a huge difference. I think there are some misexecutions from a handful of roles. I kind of still stand by my statement. I think we saw more out of Kurino in 2 games than we have out of Lazar in every other one. He forced a few flashes, but he did miss a lot of shockwaves. I think we only saw like a single one land, and that was when they went for a pick. I mean, it's not getting the most out of what you can do with your comp, and I think that's what the struggles that Sem9 have had are really like reminiscent of, is that they don't really get what they need out of their champions or out of their combination of champions. And yeah, I mean, Clayx did all right on the Xayah. They had some decent like dives and counter dives, good pushes. It's just not enough to win in this league, unfortunately.
And you know who was really staying ahead of the competition? Taco. 17,000 damage. Wow, what a great performance by him. You know, we have seen some of his like interesting picks sort of fail completely on their face, but this Sylas was just so smart. The crowd control chain to go with the Viego and to use that counter pick for Taco.
There we go.
We are seeing a star in the making right here with this new player.
I think we are for sure as well. I mean, this guy has so many different champion picks. We've seen really cool things from him, win or lose, but he finds the victory on a top side Sylas. It's refreshing to see someone who does different things, a variety of them, and more often than not, they seem to work. So if Meta Falcon team are going to have more wins this split, are going to look to contend in the playoffs, I think it's going to be off the back of this player's performance. He wowed us on day number 1, if you recall, with a Akali performance, great flanks, good map awareness, and critically, when he combos up with 665, that's when we start to see this team's synergy really shine.
Of course, and that's something that MFT desperately need. I feel like their only winning lane at this point is usually more than not coming from the top side. Sure, Whale has been kind of a rising star in his own right, but even in this game against Sem9, they actually lost the lane just 2v2, so it's very hard for me to see MFT coming into solid footing in playoffs without a solid laner. And I think if you're looking at all 3 lanes, Taco is probably the closest thing to a snowball lane that they have. They've tried a lot with Wen, and frankly, it just hasn't been there. So maybe the top lane is the answer.
If they can snowball off the top, that'll lead to more victories, but it is a tough field. We'll see going forward. However, we got one more game right after the short break. J-Team and PSG Talon for the rematch.